Welcome to Sigma Tech. Today we shall discuss woodwork hand tools 2. By the end of this topic, you should be able to define boring tools. Identify boring tools. When you see them, you should be able to identify them. State the uses of boring tools. You should be able to define cutting tools. All right, there. When you see a cutting tool, you should be able to identify it and state their uses. Okay. Boring tools are tools used for making holes on wood. When you are working on wood, there are certain tools that you require to bore hole on the wood for different reasons. Okay, so we're going to look at those tools. They are called boring tools. There are different types of boring tools that we're going to look at in this video. We're going to look at the brace, we're going to look at the gimlet, we're going to look at the bradawl, we're going to look at the beats and the twist drills. These are different boring tools that we're going to look at today. The brace is a boring tool that ordinarily cannot be used to bore hole on the wood unless we have drills fixed to it. Therefore, we have two types of brace. We have the ratchet brace. We also have the wheel brace. The ratchet brace is this that you're seeing on the screen. The ratchet brace is made up of the head that is built in such a way that your hand can fit in on the head of the ratchet brace, the handle, the ratchet itself, the jaw, don't want to call it the jaw, you can call it the chuck. That is where the fang of the drill is fixed so that drilling operation can start or can take place. So all you need to do, let's say you want to bore hole on this workpiece, just place your hand, right, your hand like this on the drill and press the bit, right, press the spur of the bit on the wood and turn the brace. As you turn it, a hole is made on the wood work that you are working on. All right, so look at the ratchet brace. See the drill. The drill has different parts. I need you to take note of these parts of the drills and the ratchet. I need you to take very, 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 note of it, a good note of it, because it's important you know which part of it does the work and which part of it is fixed to the brace. So the thang of the drill is fixed to the brace, like you can see here, is fixed to the brace here in the jaw of the brace or the chuck of the brace. All right. Now we have the feed screw. We also have the spur. As you turn the brace, the feed screw just screws into the wood, and as you rotate, as it twists, all right, hole is made on the wood. See a technologist that's working on the wood. Can you see the way he's going about it? That is how wheel brace is used to bore hole on the wood. We also have, a ratchet brace, sorry. We also have another brace we call the wheel brace. This is a typical wheel brace, just like the same function a ratchet brace does. It is also used for boring hole, in the wood. But the wheel brace alone, like I said, cannot be used to bore hole unless you have a drill or a suitable bit or drill fixed in the chuck. When it is fixed, you can now use it, to bore hole on the wood. Basically, what it is used for is to bore hole on the wood. We have another important tool, a boring tool here, that's the bradawl and the gimlet. The bradawl and gimlet, they are used for boring hole on wood manually. You don't need the brace. You don't need the brace this time around before they are used to bore hole. All right? So, but for them specifically, we'll use the gimlet and the bradawl to make the initial mark on the points that we actually want to use the brace, the wheel brace or the ratchet brace to bore a hole. That's basically what we use the gimlet and the bradawl for. They perform the same function, all right? So they are all boring tools. We have the bits and the drill for different functions, different types of bits. Like we'll see, we have the countersunk bit, we have the auger bit, we have the flat drills, we have the central drill, we have the twist drill. The twist drill is very common, you know, with ratchet brace. We have the step bit drill, we have the Forstner bit, we have the installer bit, we have the counterbore bit, different bits for different purpose, depending on what you want to actually do on the wood. But the one that is predominantly used is the twist drill. It's common. It's commonly used for boring hole, all right, on woodwork. We also have cutting tools. These are different woodwork hand tools, cutting tools. Just as their name, from their name you can tell what they are used for. Cutting tools basically are used for cutting wood. They are made from high quality steels. They are used for cutting wood. When we talk about cutting tools, basically what should come into your mind is that we're talking about saw. Saw is an example of a cutting tool. Basically, in many woodwork, the hand tools that are used for cutting basically is saw. So you can see different parts of the saw and their labels. We have the blade. The saw has a saw blade. Without it, you cannot cut the wood. We have the nib of the saw. We have the toe. We have the grip. That's where you can hold the saw and move it back and forth to cut through the wood. We have the medallion of the saw. We have the nuts, all right? The saw nut. We have the handle, the upper horn. We also have the lower horn of the saw. We have the heel of the saw. In that heel, we don't have a blade. Once the saw gets to that point, it goes back. We call it the heel of the saw. The other tail end of the saw is called the toe of the saw. The heel of the saw, the toe of the saw. This is the saw blade, like you can see. We have different types of saw that are used to perform different functions in woodwork. Different types. We're going to see them and what they are used for. We have this, the coping saw. Coping saw is used basically to cut curves on wood, on plywood. Wood that, you know, the diameter is not up to 12, it's not more than 12 millimeters in diameter. That's what we use this saw to do, basically, to cut curves through woods and plywoods. We also have another saw here we call the tenon saw. I'm showing the pictures so that when you see them, you can easily identify them. This is a tenon saw. Basically, a tenon saw is used to cut tenon joints. We have a dovetail saw also. Can you see the design? It looks like that of a tail of a dove. That's where it got the name from, a dovetail saw. A dovetail saw is used to cut dovetail joints. We also have another saw we call the fret saw. The fret saw basically also does almost the same function with a coping saw. It is used to cut curves in a woodwork. When you want to make curve or cut curves in a woodwork, we use the fret saw for that purpose. In plywood, basically, we use the fret saw for that. We also have a ball saw. It got the name from the way it looks. It looks like a ball. Okay, this is also used to cut curves in a wood that their diameter is not more than 25 millimeters. You can use balsa to cut curve in this wood. Some carpenters use this too, during roofing, to cut the wood to make joints. It's easy to use the balsa for that purpose. It's sharp also, it's very sharp. It can do the work. We also have a keyhole saw. The keyhole saw basically is used to make keyholes. It's used to make keyholes in the woodwork. You want to make keyholes in the woodwork, you use a keyhole saw. I hope you understand what I mean by keyhole. The hole in a woodwork where you will fix your key. That's what it means. Okay, let's say you are building a door, for example, and you want to make holes where your key can lap and stay. This is the saw that can help you cut through it. It is called a keyhole saw. We also have a rip saw. Rip saw. Rip saw is used to cut through or to cut along the grain of a wood. And that is what we call ripping a wood. You rip a wood into planks. You rip a wood. That's where the name came from, rip saw. Okay, so rip saw basically, please, I need you to take note of what I'm saying. Rip saw is a saw that is used to cut along the grain of a wood. Take note of that. We also have another saw here we call the cross-cut saw from the name. Cross-cut saw, if you compare it with the rip saw, you can see that in cross-cut that the blades are a little bit bigger, compared to rip saw. The cross-cut saw is used to cut across the grain, not along, across the grain of a wood. That's where the name came from, cross-cut, across the grain of the wood. Okay, this saw, cross-cut, rip saw, panel saw, they are used to cut wood. When you have large wood, let's say you want to cut plank, for example, this is the saw that can enable you to do that. Cross-cut, panel saw, and rip saw. But when you want to cut across the grain, cross-cut saw will do that job with ease. The panel saw look like a rip saw and a cross-cut saw. It can do the same function a rip saw can do. It can perform the same function a cross-cut saw can perform. So three of them almost do the same function. We also have another important cutting tool we call the planes. The plane, they are cutting tools used basically for leveling and smoothing a wooden surface by stripping, shavings from the surface. Every woodworker that wants to actually make any workpiece in his workshop must have this plane. If not, you have a very rough work. So basically, the planes are cutting tools that we use for smoothing. It can also be used to level the surface of the wood you are working on. That it does by removing some, shavings from the surface of the wood. Let's say you want to level the surface. It's a plane that you use for that purpose. We have different types of planes. Different types of planes for different purposes. What they do, and we're going to talk about them. But before we talk about different types of planes, I need you to look at different parts of the plane. I need to look at different parts of the plane. A plane here has the sole. This is the sole of the plane. This one is metallic. We can have a wooden plane, but this one is a metallic plane. This is the sole of the plane. This is the sole of the plane here. This is the mouth of the plane. Of course, this is a cast iron body. You remember what I told you about cast iron? This is a cast iron body. We also have the handle, or what we call the tot. We have the toe. We have the knob. This is either you call it the knob or you call it the front handle. That's where you fix your hand. Let's say you want to level here or smoothen the surface. When you put your hand on the other edge, you grip the knob so as you can push the plane on the wood surface. Okay, we also have the cam. We have the lever cap, like you can see. Then we have the chip breaker. Then we have the blade. This is the blade. This is the chip breaker. This is the blade. This is the chip breaker. Then we also have the adjustment, the lateral adjustment that helps you adjust the blade, how the depth you want the blade to get to. This is what helps you to do that. The lateral adjustment lever does that function. Okay, you want it to go deeper into the wood. That does that function for us. Okay, so let's consider different types of plane. We have different types of plane that are used for different purposes. We have a jack plane. We have a smoothing plane. Even if you don't know what this one is used for, from the name you can tell that it's used for smoothing the surface of the wood. That's the last plane that's supposed to be used when you are actually making any project. Then we have a four plane. We have the triumph plane. We also have spoke shaves. These are different types of plane that we have. A jack plane, smoothing plane, four plane, triumph plane, and a spoke shave. I need you to take note of them. As a technologist, you should be acquainted with these names so that when you are to perform any function on the woodwork, you know which plane you are supposed to use to perform that particular job on the woodwork. Okay, let's look at this. This is a four plane. This is a four plane. This is the first plane that is used on the surface of a woodwork. This is the first plane that is supposed to be used, because this plane is used to roughen out wood. All right, the first thing you do on the surface of the wood is just use a four plane to just roughen out the wood, scrape out some shavings from the surface of the wood. That's what this plane does. The four plane, the name four, the first plane to be used before we can have other planes. We also have the jack plane. After the four plane is the jack plane. The jack plane is used to plane rough surfaces. When the surface of the wood is roughened by the four plane, then the jack plane will come to plane this rough surface. Anywhere you have a rough surface of the timber, the jack plane, comes to level the surface of the timber before you can get it to a fine finish that suits whatever project that you have in mind. We also have the smoothing plane. Like I said, the smoothing plane is the last plane that would be used on the surface of the wood. It's the final plane that must be used. All right, this is the finishing touch is done by this smoothing plane. So if you want to achieve smoothness on the surface, it is this plane that does it. No other plane does it better than smoothing plane. Okay. Then we also have the spoke shaves. When you want to remove wood particles from the surface of the wood, we use the spoke shave for that purpose. We have them in different sizes. We have them in different forms. The spoke shave, just you have to hold. If you have a spoke shave, this is this handle, this is that handle. It's as if you are brushing off, on the surface of the wood. So when you do that, you scrape out. You remove, the wooden particles that you have on the surface of the wood while working. So use your spoke shave for that purpose. It's also a cutting tool. Please take note. These are different sizes, different designs of the spoke shave for different purposes. All right, different designs depending on the one your hand can get to. They perform the same function. If you want to remove some wooden particles, spoke shaves, they do that function. They are cutting tools. We also have a trying plane. Trying plane here, you can see it's a wooden plane. We want to take a level of the wood. Trying plane does that. Take a level of the wood. We use trying plane for that purpose. Okay, so it's for that. So now you can tell for yourself when you want to perform any function on a woodwork, when it has to do with smoothing the surface and leveling the surface, or when you are actually planing a surface, we have some wood particles. It happens, especially when you're working on soft wood. It happens. Or even some hardwood too. When you plane the surface, you still have some remnants on the surface. Then you know that, oh, you're supposed to bring the service of a spoke shave here to be able to remove that particular wood particle. So I need you to take note of these planes and their functions. I need to take note of it. The trying plane, the spoke shave, the jack plane, the smoothing plane, the fore plane, what they are used for. Very, very important. We'll take note of them. Then we'll have another cutting tool we call the chisel. The chisel here is a chipping tool. It's also called a paring tool. In case you hear, a chisel is also a chipping tool or a paring tool. It's a cutting tool that basically used for shaping wood. Right? Yes, it's used for shaping wood. If you want to shape wood, you can use chisel to bring that shape on the wood. All right? We also have different types of chisels. We have the flat chisel, we have a cross-cut chisel, we have the round nose chisel, we also have the diamond chisel. The diamond nose chisel, the fascinating aspect of these tools is that they get their names from their look. Look at this chisel, looks like a diamond. So the name, diamond nose, a diamond nose chisel. That's what you're seeing on your screen. The diamond nose chisel is used mainly for chiseling inside corners. That's the function of this chisel. When you want to, chisel out, you want to make some curves, you want to make cut through certain places or designs in a wood, and that place happens to be in a corner. Diamond nose chisel is used for that purpose. We also have the flat chisel. This flat chisel, you can use it to level surfaces, especially when we have rough surfaces on the surface of the wood that you're working on. You can use this flat chisel to, use them to remove these rough surfaces, like that. When you have it, you just have a kind of hammer on the head. It will remove the rough surfaces on the wood. So flat chisels are basically used for removing rough surfaces. We also have another chisel we call the cross-cut chisel. They are used for making narrow grooves. See the way it looks. They're also used for making keyways. They are used for making slots, in shafts. That's what we use this kind of chisel for. Keyways, we can use them to make keyways. We can use them to make slots in shaft. We can use them to make narrow grooves. That's what this chisel can be used on a woodwork. We have the round nose. We have the round nose chisel. It is used for making grooves, oil grooves in shafts. That's what the chisel is used for. Okay, now that we have discussed different hand tools that we use for woodwork, it's important you know how to take care of these hand tools so that you don't keep buying and replacing them. So there are different ways we can care for the hand tools. Number one is that make sure that you're using the right tool for the operation that you are performing. Make sure that the hand tool you are using is the suitable hand tool for that operation, is the right tool for that operation. When you do that, you are not at the risk of accident, you're not at the risk of injuring yourself, and the job will be easier for you to do. After use, please clean the tools. Don't leave them like that. Don't leave specks on them. Don't leave them unkept. Clean it, right? After you are done making use of them. Then store them in an orderly manner. Don't keep them where they can injure somebody. Keep them properly. Arrange them where they are supposed to be. Don't keep your tools in a damp place. If you do that, they are made up of iron. There are iron in them. They are metals, and they can corrode. Right? They can rust. So when they do that, they lose their quality. Those of them that have edge, they are cutting edges, they start becoming blunt. So it will be difficult for you to use them again. So before you use them, you have to maybe go again to resharpen them. And when you file these tools, they will wear out. So it's important we take care of our hand tools. Very, very important we do that. Okay, let us use our app, ExamGuide app, to practice questions based on the topic I just taught just now. Just like I told you before, that ExamGuide app is an app I recommend for every student in JS1, JS2, JS3. If you actually want to do well in your subjects, I don't just mean BTech, all subjects, I strongly recommend this app for you. It's important you use them to practice the CBT. The more you practice, the more you improve, the more you get better by the day. So let me walk you through to how this app is used. Okay, so let's pick some questions on what I just taught. Let's pick some questions. Okay, look at this. The diagram shown below is a or and dash saw, crosscut, hacksaw, junior saw, ripping saw, senior saw. Now, this saw you see on the board is not crosscut. It's not a hacksaw. Hacksaw is for metal work. This is called a junior saw. It's a junior saw, okay? All right. Let's look at more questions on that. Let's look at more questions. Let's look at more questions coming from that. The following are cutting and paring tools, except A, bench hold fast, B, a chisel, C, crosscut saw, D, a jack plane, and E, a spoke shave. Just a moment ago, I discussed cutting tools with you. Now, if you take these options, you will see from here that from option B to option E, they are all examples of cutting tools. But the bench hold fast is not a cutting tool. Rather, it's a part of a workbench. It's not a paring tool. It's not a cutting tool. So the right answer is a bench hold fast. It's not a cutting tool. Thank you.